You're listening to Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the community for the best sales and marketing professionals in the aviation industry. You can't learn to fly just from a book. You learn from other pilots who know the tools, the skills, and the territory. Your hosts, John and Paula Williams, are your sales and marketing test pilots. They take the risks for you and share strategies, relevant examples, hacks, and how-tos. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes so you won't miss a thing.
So welcome to our book club discussion. This week we're talking about Power Prospecting by Patrick Henry Hansen, which was kind of a different book than what we usually go in for, but it was highly recommended to us. He's a local guy here in Salt Lake, and we thought we'd give it a shot. I'm Paula Williams with ABC. I am the facilitator, and I run the company with John. And John, you are?
Yeah, I'm John Williams, and I work for her, but I do most of. Well, I do. Don't laugh. It's her company, and I help with all the back end stuff. She's the out front person.
Fantastic. And Kathryn?
I'm Kathryn Creedy. I'm communication strategies, copywriting, public relations strategizing, and social media.
Fantastic. And Lillian?
I'm Lillian Tamm. I'm with Aviation, and we do valuations of business, aviation businesses, and different kinds of consulting to the aviation industry research, and things like along those lines.
Fantastic. And I think this is the first book club we've ever done, or first podcast or webinar we have ever done where we had a majority of women. So we're breaking new ground today.
I can leave. I'd be happy.
Not at all. That is just fine. You can be here. We like having you, John. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what you thought of the book in general before we jump into it. What did you think, John?
I think the thing that hit me most was his thoughts on courage.
Yeah?
Not the absence of fear, it's the mastery of fear, because it's everywhere, and cold calling just exemplifies it. That's why he says, and I agree, that most people don't do that.
Because they don't have the courage, right?
Yeah, they're afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathryn, what did you think?
Well, I thought on the cold calling, having a strategy around the cold calling, that's something I've done for a while. Name, phone number, state your business, tell them what you're going to do, i.e. call me back, or I'll follow up with an email or follow up with a phone call at such and such a time. If that's not convenient, you set the time. I thought that was a really, really, really good strategy.
Fantastic. Great.
You're organized.
Yeah, and that's so impressive. I mean, everybody that we get cold calls from is not organized, so I think that makes a big difference. Lillian, how about you?
It was kind of interesting for me because in doing the type of consulting that we've done, we've never cold called. Like we've done the odd thing, but it's never been a big portion of it. Because we do evaluations, it tends to be something that people call us for because they don't even think of it. And
Right.
it's just not, I mean, it's not something that people tend to do unless they've got a reason for it. And that reason isn't something that they think about way ahead of time, typically.
Right. That's
So
absolutely.
this was all, like, a lot of the principles I sort of knew, but it was interesting to read a whole about it.
Right. Manual versus electronic CRM. I have an opinion on this that I've shared way plenty, so I'll keep my mouth shut. John.
Well, having used both, I can tell you electronic CRM is one great big advantage to anything you do with having to do with sales.
Okay.
I mean, particularly today, we wouldn't have done you much good 30 years ago, but today.
Right. Kathryn?
I don't really have an opinion on it, so I'll pass.
Okay. That's fair.
I think electronic makes most sense, no question. Not that I've actually implemented it, but I do think that electronic makes the most sense.
Right. Well, and there is a difference. I mean, if you're a broker or somebody like that and you have got only 10 prospects that you need to keep track of at any given time, I suppose you probably could do that
Exactly.
with a spreadsheet just as easily. But most of us want to keep track of people over 5, 10, 15 years. And the only way to do that, in my opinion, is electronically. Nobody has that kind of time to do that any other way. But so I did end up sharing my opinion. So there you go. All right, so the next big thing was what goes into an ideal customer profile. And I thought this was really helpful. I actually did one for us. John, what do you think? These are the ones that were in the example in the book, of course, but...
Well, why we care is because the next time you contact them, you know something about them. Then there'd have to be demographic information on your particular customer you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. Right.
More importantly, I think it helps you organize your thoughts about what you can do for them to help grow their business, and to basically, again, this goes back to organization. Who are these people and why do you want to do business with them, and why should they want to do business with you? All those, organizing all those thoughts, I think, is very important going in, and having your scripting it is equally important, as Patrick Hansen said.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kathryn, when you and I start working with a client, Kathryn writes with us or for us for a lot of our clients, and she really needs to know, or you really need to know the ideal customer profile, because you need to know who you're trying to attract with your writing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Target audience. I do this. I do these little exercises a lot. What is your target audience?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to reach? And I find that a lot of people don't have that organized in their head. They kind of say, oh, well, I want to reach flight schools, or I want to reach students, or I want to reach, but they don't say specifically what organizations they want to reach.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may even want to say, I want this particular section of the country.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but that needs to be narrowed down.
Yeah, yeah. And if they can't define it, I mean, then they aren't very organized, and you need to help them, or we need to help them organize those thoughts. Ask the right questions so that they can get to their ideal customer, their target audience, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And the more specific this is, the more effective it is in terms of writing or any other kind of marketing. Lillian, how about you? How has this worked for you, or have you thought about it in your business?
We have done that to a degree, because there are some companies that just aren't ready or suitable for some of the things that we do. But reading this helped to focus it a bit to the next level, if you will. And I think that, I mean, it's one of those type of things. I mean, my background was in business administration, economics, that kind of stuff when I went to school. And I remember a lot of the marketing classes talking about you've always got to think about your customer. Now, I know that was a long time ago that I took those classes, but that's kind of stuck with me. And even in doing things like when you do your website or marketing materials, you've got to look at what the guy who's at the other end is looking for. And even in choosing who your prospects are they going to have a need for you? And are they the ideal one? Are you wasting your time, spending too much time on somebody that isn't really going to respond? So I've like a lot of the information in the book and this part, I think, really sort of helped to gel that.
Yeah.
For me.
But how do you say it, Paula? Random acts of marketing are useless.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And even though, we preach this stuff all the time, I don't always do it as specifically as we should for our company even. So this book was really good for me to go through and do some of the exercises and go, wow, I thought I had this, but I really didn't have it as specifically as I should have. And it really makes it easier to write copy and to develop materials and to figure out what lists we want, where we should spend money, where we shouldn't spend money, which is really helpful. All right.
That's sort of.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that's sort of what I found too, is that it helped me focus on some of the more minutia that I should be focusing on specifically with like customer profiles and targeting.
Right. The minutia. That's John's favorite word since we saw the Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
There you go.
We didn't have time to work on the minutia of the plan. All right. So what are the 5 steps in the messaging matrix? And, again, this is one of those things. I actually made a table like they did in the book for my customers of, category, need, pain, solution, and benefit. And it was pretty enlightening. And in some ways, you have to have more than one. And I figured out, what? We need 10 different tables for 10 different customer types, depending on what they need. What do you think, John?
You have a high, medium, and low level, and this is probably hitting about the average for the right start, which is good for most people.
Okay.
But I think it needs to be more specific on any given business.
Fair enough. Kathryn, any thoughts on
Say
this?
again. Oh.
Well, again, it goes back to figuring out what you can do for them and why they want to work with you. So, yeah, you're going to have numerous messages depending on the client. It's like a resume and a cover letter. You want to make sure that it addresses everything in that job posting. It's just tailoring to your audience.
Right. Lillian, how about you?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go through and work through this for our company yet, but it's on my list for this week actually.
Okay.
Because I think it's a really good strategy for focusing. There's a lot of different niches that we target, and I think it's going to be like you said. There's maybe you've got 10 different situations that you need to do, I probably have that too.
Right.
And I think that's a very useful tool to be able to focus on specific niches that that you address.
What's interesting with your company is I think that every company has a need for what you do, but there are very few of them that understand enough that they need it.
That's actually true. That is actually true. A lot of companies could use evaluation just to determine where they are now and see where they're going, and that's something that I think all of us could. You have to sometimes take a look back at your own finances or whatever. So your company is the same way. You've got to take a look, a step back, and see where am I.
Right.
So yeah.
When I went through business school, they spent an inordinate amount of time on valuation and the need and so forth. It was quite interesting.
One thing that we found with companies when we start working with them, a lot of times their sales presentations are just feature, without considering, who is this customer? What needs do they have? What pains are these features supposed to be addressing? But you really shouldn't even bring up a feature unless it applies very specifically to that customer. And this discipline really forces you into that mode of thinking about the customer more specifically than I think anybody in the aviation industry does.
That's probably true for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Okay, and then I didn't make a copy of this in the slideshow, but there is a pre-call email or letter, just a real simple thing in the book that I think is an interesting idea. I had not done this before. Often we'll send a package prior to a sales call, or most of the calls that we do, like you, Lillian, are not cold calls, but they are inbound marketing. People have contacted us for some reason, and then we contact them after the fact.
This is a pre-cold call email, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would absolutely use an email. I mean, the problem is, I sold used cars for a while, and everybody that walked in a lot is like a cold call. But their intent is, if you can't sell them, you pass it off to somebody else. But it's the same thing. You don't have any precursor. You don't even know the person's name. Whereas if you can at least do an email and maybe get a response, even if you don't get a response, then you can say, well, I sent you this mail and didn't know if you had time to read it or whatever, and you can go down that road. Then it makes it not a completely cold call.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would not do a letter, because I think that's, unless you're going to do something the way you do it, Paula, which is send a letter with a little gift or something that will attract their attention. But that's further down the line, I think. That's effective more further down the line. But I think everybody is focused on email these days. You just have to get a catchy title to the email and hope that it's enough to bring somebody to open up the email.
Right. That's where good writing comes in. If you don't have a fantastic headline, and most people don't spend enough time on headlines.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, rather than an email, if you can get them on LinkedIn, that'd be even better.
That I find LinkedIn to be a really, really valuable source.
So I don't know if they'd use that as a pre-call email or a pre-call message or whatever.
To find out what message boards that they're on they participate in the groups. I use groups to establish my credentials. I contribute to groups, and I correspond with those people in the group who I think would be a good contact. So if you can get into a group where a prospect is already active and it's in their profile, then so much the better.
Right. Absolutely. And Lillian, I'm sorry, did you want to add anything to this slide, or?
Well, I mean, I had never thought about using a pre-call email or letter, and it might be something that I might look at doing after reading this.
Right. I know you haven't done cold calls in the past, so this. If you decided that this was something that you wanted to do, I would say a letter or an email or a LinkedIn message sounds like the most effective way to do that. That's what I'm most likely to respond to.
If you're going to do that, somebody, I think it was American Express, had a letter that was very, very good. That would be a good way to pattern after.
Your 30-second commercial. They talked about this on page 100. This might be a good place for everyone to just deliver their 1 second or 30-second commercial. We've actually narrowed ours down to about a 10-second commercial because we like to have people ask us questions. And our 30-second commercial is, John?
Lay it out there, boss.
We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services. And that always leads to questions, like, how do you do that? Or do you do websites? Or, what do you mean by that? And then we can talk about inbound marketing or whatever seems to be the right format for the venue. But we try to keep it really short so that it inspires those questions. So we got it down to one sentence. But his recommendation is a 30-second commercial. Kathryn, how do you feel about that? Do you have one?
No, I don't. And nor, as a writer, I think that I really don't have anything like that or would have use for something like that. But I'd be more inclined to do, to try and craft something for someone else rather than do my own 30-second commercial. I actually think 30 seconds is very long.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to get it down to that.
Yeah.
So having 1 or 2 sentences is about all they're going to have patience for.
Well, Kathryn.
Well, your elevator speech supposedly is 15 seconds long, but our marketing group that we belong to says you have 7 seconds to sell the next 7 seconds.
Right. Kathryn, what do you say at a networking event when someone asks, what do you do?
I do public relations. Well, I guess I should really craft something for myself, but I do public relations and general writing. I do narratives to position companies within their industry and their contributions to the industry. So it's very amorphous and it's not very good. Let me put it that way.
That actually was not bad. I think that's something you could just take the transcript when you get it from this, and it will work. Basically craft that from there. So, that is something.
I think many companies value what they do. They're so interested in making the sale that they devalue their contribution to the industry. And I learned this a great deal from my experience with Embraer Executive Jets. And Embraer is very, very conservative, and it does not really tout it doesn't blow its own horn at all, and it should, because it has made massive changes to the industry, especially when it comes to executive jets, and they didn't tout that at all. So when I wrote my narrative, it put the executive jets into context with their other branches, their military and their civilian branches, their commercial aviation branches, and said, that was our basis, and then we went beyond that, and not only did we, leverage our expertise from these 2 branches, we took it a step further to actually change the industry. And I think more companies could benefit from actually saying how they have moved the industry they're in whether it's applying technology to new technology or changing the level of an aircraft, changing the amenities in an aircraft that had never been seen before in a entry-level aircraft but was now standard on an Embraer aircraft. Putting your company into context with the industry, I think, is a really good way to set yourself apart.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think that's an outstanding way of looking at it. So, Lillian, did you have a 30-second commercial that you'd like to share?
Hi, I'm Lillian Tamm, president of Avacor Aviation. We're aviation industry consultants and aviation business valuators, meaning that we value or appraise aviation businesses. If you're growing your business, a valuation can tell you where your business is and help to define areas that need improvement. Some of our clients do yearly or bi-yearly checkups with us to see how their business is doing. You can also use our valuation in securing a business loan or line of credit, establishing a sales price, or to determine value for adding or divesting partners. And we're certified so it can be used with IRS filings. If you would like to discuss how we can benefit you, give me a call. My direct number is 503-214-2268 or email me at ltam@avacoraviation.com. That is Lima Tango Alpha Mike Mike at Alpha Victor India Charlie Oscar Romeo aviation.com. Again, my phone number is 503-214-2268. I look forward to hearing from you.
Right. Okay. Well, let's carry on from there. Voicemail. Love it, hate it, use it, don't use it. What do you think, John?
When you make a cold call, you already have to have a planned voicemail, because most of the time you're not going to get through to who you want to get to. You're going to get their voicemail anyway. So you need to have one that's planned and very good to get them interested to call you back, or to be prepared for when you call them back. So, strategic tool.
Okay. Kathryn.
I absolutely agree. I really thought that passage in the book on scripting your voicemails and following up or saying in the voicemail your next action, whether you want them to take action or whether you're going to follow up with a phone call, or I'll be there at 9:20 next Tuesday morning. If that's not convenient for you, let me know and we'll reschedule. It's prompting an interaction between your company and your target.
Right.
I really like that.
Great. Lillian.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to know ahead of time what you're going to say. I have always tended to do that with voicemails anyway. If I think I might not be able to reach somebody, I think ahead about what it is I want to say so that I'm not just left trying to figure it out right at the moment. I think it is good to have a plan as to what you might say if you don't get them. You tend to anyway when you're going to get them. If you figure you're going to get the person at the other end, you already have a strategy typically as to what you're going to talk about and what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Why not have it for the voicemail? It makes very logical sense.
Totally
and
agree.
This is something that I do all the time when I'm pitching a reporter or pitching an editor about a story. I have to grab their attention to prompt any action whatsoever. So I have to really have my script available so that I can tell them why I'm calling and do it in a short enough period of time, because everybody hates long, involved emails. I'm calling about X. I thought you would be interested because I'll follow up with a phone call, another phone call, and an email. Bang. And of course, leave your identification and your phone number, and leave your phone number twice. I always do that.
Right. Perfect. Exactly. I started using a checklist, actually, and if I've got a checklist written, then it works either way, whether I get a human or whether I get their voicemail. So I'm prepared either way, and I don't get thrown by voicemail like I used to. I used to just hang up when I got a voicemail because I figured nobody was ever going to return a voicemail from a salesperson or someone trying to sell them something. But as it turns out, they do. And if you hang up from 75% of your sales calls, you're really wasting your time, because you're going to get people's voicemail 75% of the time anyway. So that's just insane use of time, and I was guilty of that for a long time. All right, moving right along. How do you qualify sales opportunities, John?
Well, hopefully you pre-qualified them before you made the call, so that you're not calling Sandler Sales to sell them something that they already have, or
trying to sell them sales training.
yeah, right.
But
After that, you need to know if they have a need, if they've got the resources, and if they've got the authority to buy.
Yeah, that's authority to buy. That's very important.
Yeah, that's the one we keep leaving out. Lillian, how about you? What do you think?
Authority to buy is a very important part of it, especially for what we do, because you have to be able to make decisions about the whole company and get access to things about the whole company, typically. So that's very important. Because I haven't really done that sort of prospecting, I have to kind of take a step back and look at the whole qualification process for prospecting, because typically we get calls that somebody's already interested, so they've pre-qualified themselves in saying that they're looking at this. Although one of the big factors is that Evaluation is not a $500 product, it's a lot more than that. So it's not like appraising a house or something, it's a lot more involved. And some people cut themselves off immediately because they just don't have the budget, and I'm sure you run into that same sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, so sometimes early in the call or early in the first set of calls, you want to make sure you have an idea out there of, so they don't go into sticker shock and you've already spent a ton of time with them and have them disappear on you.
Right, or sometimes you can turn them into a different type of client or scale them up to two different things by doing a little bit for them and then moving up, which I know you guys do.
Right. Tailoring to their need at the moment,
Exactly.
as much as you can, given the resources. And that's true of everybody these days, especially the last 5 years or so. Nobody has an unlimited budget, and you can't do the ideal product for them at the ideal time. So that's, I guess that's not necessarily true, but happens a lot.
Right.
All right. So what's included in the 3-step close? And why is that a good thing? John, you're closing the call, you're not closing the sale, and that's a very different scenario. You don't have to, sometimes you're just closing for an appointment or you're closing for a next step.
I find with me, that action, that closing the call, often leads to more work on my part, because I've now understood better what the prospect needs, and now I can then tailor my pitch to what they're looking for. So I will follow up with an email with a tailored pitch, and then follow that up with a phone call.
Right. That makes perfect sense.
I would say exactly the same thing. I find that, I find that as well. A lot of times when I'm talking to someone, that ends up being exactly what happens, is that because I've now learned more about them, I prepare something that I send out to them that's much more targeted to their specific need.
Right. And that just means it was a productive call. So you've moved the ball 5 yards down the field, that you don't have to do a touchdown every time.
Right.
That's how you win games.
Unless you're selling cars.
Then it's
They want a touchdown every time when you're selling cars.
right. But I think with aviation, we've got really complex and high ticket products, and they haven't always made up their mind about what they need or how they need it or what's involved or who all is involved in the decision. And so I think sometimes it takes 20 calls I'm not exaggerating, to make a sale. And so, each time, as long as you make some yardage with each call, you're still doing all right. So next month, Even a Geek Can Speak. This is Joey Asher. This is another very different book, but I think this is important because all of us end up, if we're in sales or marketing, needing to communicate better than we have in the past, and most of us tend to get geeky about our particular subject matter expertise. And everybody but Kathryn, maybe. I know you're an expert communicator, but the rest of us, I get nerdy about marketing. Lillian, you probably get nerdy about valuations if you don't watch your yourself on that. Is that right?
I can.
Because you have a level of knowledge that your customers don't, and you've got a whole vocabulary that they've never heard of.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see how that goes. So go forth and sell more stuff.
Thanks for joining us for Aviation Marketing Hangar Flying, the best place to learn what really works in sales and marketing in the aviation industry. Remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating.
You're cool.